Hello humans and other species. I'm Batsy, and today we are back in the SMP. I know, it has been quite a while since the last video I made on the server. And judging by the state of my base, it's hard to imagine the server has been running for several months now. Depression has put quite a heavy toll on me, and it doesn't help that all the plans I had for the season were quite gargantuan in size. Even the smallest step felt too big to tackle, so I spent the last few months just making standalone videos about random farms and things that I thought were interesting. But today I want to change that. We have a new custom hardcore mod made by Jay that I'm super excited to try, so I'm going to ignore all of those massive plans I have for the time being and just try to enjoy the game for a little bit, see what happens. And I want to start with something that I have wanted to do for a long time now: the lore. So cuddle up, get comfy, maybe grab some snackos, and let's get this new beginning started. The end, the most boring place one could ever live in. Yet it has been my home for as long as I have memory. I know I'm not from here, because even if the natives have always been nice and loving with me, I clearly don't look at all like them. And of course I'm not talking about the size difference, no, I'm talking about my magical powers. I seem to have an affinity for magic. Sadly though, this place is so empty of any kind of energy, I have been struggling to develop my skills. But everything changed when I was collecting some food, and I suddenly felt a massive burst of energy coming from far away. The dragoons sounded quite agitated and furious, something that has never happened before, so I decided to investigate. That's when I saw them, creatures that looked just like me. Can you imagine that? I don't know where they came from, but they were powerful. Powerful enough to be fighting the dragoon. That pesky lizard tormented the end for years, so I can't say I was particularly sad about it. When the dust settled and they finished celebrating their victory, they simply jumped between some rocks and disappeared. Of course I wanted to know more about them, so I rushed towards the center to see where they go. As soon as I saw what felt like a portal, I didn't have to think twice before crossing it. And there I was, on a completely different world. I could sense so much life and energy coming from this new place, as well as the presence of a massive snake deity. But there was no signs of the humans I saw before, and I didn't stop to find out if the deity had any intentions to eat me. So I went through what I assumed was the path that the humans took to come to the end. These humans must be impressive if they managed to go through this entire dungeon without dying. It surely took me some time to climb my way out of there. But I could smell it. I could smell the fresh air just ahead of me. And there I was, on a new world full of life. I didn't question why was I walking out of another snake deity, and I simply headed forward, towards the start of a new adventure. And that brings us to the present day. With some sort of, starter barrel pile of sorts? The plan now is to at least get a house started. I know there is a ton of empty space, and there is much work to be done. But for now, my only goal is to start walking. Maybe even just start crawling, really. As said at the beginning, all I want today is to get back into the mindset. And maybe even kick depression out of here, at least for a bit. Oh, right, almost forgot. We do have this new hardcore mod too. Jay made it for the server, and it's just so cool. Actually, I already crafted the anchor. It will be cooler to show it directly. The idea here is that you place this new anchor somewhere in your base, and this will act as your new respawn point instead of the normal bed. Once the anchor is down, you already count as being in hardcore mode. At that point, your only way of reviving is through the use of a revive totem, which it does require a bunch of diamonds to craft, but I couldn't come up with other non-renewable resources for the recipe. The idea is for death to have a cost, not high enough that no one will want to try the mod, but not something that can easily be farmed either. So what happens if you can't pay the price? Well, either someone else has to pay it, since they can interact with your anchor and revive you if they can craft a totem, or you will float around in spectator mode indefinitely. I'm personally super excited to get started with it. I already have a few Nautilus shells required to craft the revive potion. I just need to get started brewing the regen potion, and I should be good to go. Though I would like to have a base to place my anchor first, so I think that's my next little step, to gather some resources and get this base started. And here we have it. What a cute little house, isn't it? I really love how this turned out. I wanted to make something that resembled some kind of nature witchy vibe, if that makes sense. Though I will be honest, I actually had no clue where I was going with it as I was building it. I thought that making a house that seems to have grown would be cool. Like a house tree, house mushroom, or something like that. A house you could plant instead of build. But then I thought, what if instead of a mushroom roof, I just literally pop a mushroom on the roof? Like straight up, just an awkward mushroom standing there on the roof. And I gotta say, I love it. I find it so funny. And I couldn't be happier with the shape of the mushrooms too. The shape of everything, really. I used those bite pieces from the Copycat Plus mod. I was building with them in creative as I usually would with normal blocks, but in a much smaller scale. And it turned out quite nice, I think. The only part I'm not fully sold on is the chimney. I really want to have a chimney. It just feels a little bit too thick maybe. The point of the chimney is to split the composition of the roof. It fits so well in the middle of the mushrooms, and it completes the picture. I also love the color, which was suggested by Dam Dam. She said, why not make it like a stem? But since white would blend too much with the mushrooms, I used the same color as the inside part of the mushroom, and it looks fantastic. What I wonder is if it should be thinner and maybe more bent to the right or something. To have a more wonky shape to it or something. Maybe even make it with the shape of a smaller mushroom. That could be cool, actually. I could maybe use this mushroom and just make it the chimney instead. It would only need something on top to let the smoke go through, but it could work. Though maybe not, because I would need to shift the mushroom forward. Otherwise, the roof won't be well balanced. I don't know. I will have to think about it more. Maybe the best idea is to take the current chimney and make it a smaller mushroom. That could be cute too. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear some suggestions. But yeah, the rest of the roof is also somewhat mushroom inspired. It just made sense to be that way, and the transition turned out really nice, all things considered. I thought on making it the same color as the mushrooms, but the point for the town was to have purple roofs, so I thought would be fine to go for that anyway. I think the color composition is good. I'm happy with it. Some of you might be wondering, how am I flying? Because during the time lapse I was using this floaty thing, but it doesn't look like immersive aircrafts anymore. But it is. It's the same bat flyer I have been using all season. I just changed the texture to make it more convenient for building. It's going to make more sense if I show you the real texture of the aircraft, so you can see the problem I have with it. Okay, this is the base texture, which looks very cute. But notice the position when I sit on it. I'm super far back and down into the seat. Looking down slightly already covers half my screen. I tried it without downscaling the size of my character, and it looks something like this. It's a bit on the screen, but it's not too bad. But look at it with my model. My butt is already half glitched through the seat, which is obviously not good. And check this out, I'm a lot more far back than I should be. The moment I look slightly down when building, I just have the massive aircraft covering my face. It's not good. I wish I could simply make it smaller, instead of removing the platform, but I only know how to change the texture. I imagine the model is inside the mod, and that sounds more complicated. So I just removed it for now. If I have the time, I will try to make a smaller platform, see how that goes. I don't mind this though, I think it looks super funny to be honest. It's as if I had an engine in my back or something, and it funnily blends with the air tank. So that's how I was flying during the time-lapse. As for the interior, yeah, there is nothing going on yet. But I imagine I will take some time between episodes to get something going. For now though, I want to set up the hardcore mod before closing for this episode. I crafted myself a revive altar. I noticed that I was showing the wrong anchor at the start of the episode. Now yes, this one is the real deal. And it's already saying in chat that the hardcore mode has been enabled, and our new spawn point is here. If we want to stop playing this mode, we can simply mine out the anchor like any other block, and it already says in chat that we are no longer in hardcore mode. It's quite simple to opt in and out of this mode, which I think it's ideal. And the UI is as simple as it gets, with a slot to place the revive totem, and that's it. So why not get ourselves a revive totem? I have the materials, but we need to go to the industrial world. That's where I have the brewing set up. And might as well click the button while we here. It's always so satisfying. Anyway, the potions. I only have one gas tear, so 3 potions is all we can do for now. The recipe starts with a regeneration potion, so we need a tear for it, and of course it starts with an awkward potion. You might be wondering why I make the totem off a potion recipe. The reason is partially because I find it funny to use potions. I think crafting them is quite cool. Also because I wanted to make it somewhat harder to automate. The idea is for death to have a cost, without that cost being annoying or too impossible to pay. It basically goes down to gas tiers, nautilus shells, and diamonds. So you can technically automate everything, even the diamonds part, but you can also do it manually without much issue. I wouldn't mind some suggestions for somewhat non-renewable materials to use for the recipe, but I'm happy with what we have going on. Now we just need to get a bunch of diamonds, and we are ready to craft the totem. 8 diamonds per craft seems rough, but our economy is based on coins, so Tom's storage is the only real way to consume diamonds in this SMP. But now that we have our totems, all we have to do is take one of them and place it on the anchor. Placing more than one doesn't work, by the way. It has to be exactly 1. There we go, so now, if we die, we will instantly revive here. I think this animation was looking smoother on the test server. Maybe between shaders and everything is making it look clunky. But it should be working as intended anyway, so that's fantastic.
And what happens if you die, and there is no revive totem in the altar?
Well, I'm glad you asked. You get stuck in spectator mode until someone makes a totem and places it on your anchor. If they do that, they will revive you. It's not technically hardcore because you don't lose the entire world. But there are 2 things I love about it. First is, hardcore makes no sense in multiplayer. If you die, then it's GG, you can't play with your friends anymore, and that sucks for obvious reason. The second thing is that hardcore still makes no sense in multiplayer. Because essentially you force everyone in the server to play that way, and while there are some that might find it interesting, there will also be many others that don't want to play that way. With this solution, you can play with your friends, and not everyone has to agree on what mode to play in. Sure, dying still has a cost, but it's a doable cost, and if we are struggling, we are still on a multiplayer server. We can ask for help to get revived, and that, I think, is the coolest part of it. To make it a multiplayer experience. Anyway, that's enough about the mod. The goal of the episode was to get my gears spinning, to focus on little steps, and try to improve my motivation. I should be honest and say I probably worked less than half of what I could have done, and I frankly overate and stayed in bed for longer than I should. But I'm happy to say that the goal was achieved anyway. The house is done. Minus interior, but somewhat done. I will call that a victory. I just need to make sure the gears don't stop spinning now, and that the progress continues next week. One little step at a time. But that will be it for this week. A massive thanks to all my supporters who help me directly, and to all the fangies that stay along. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.